Well, the reason that whole system was compelling to me was biodiversity as a quality of a system, a community that you can go look at.
Yeah.
There are a couple theories, recognized, acknowledged theories as to how biodiversity establishes itself. And there's great models, one for high productivity areas like the tropical rainforest.
Okay.
That it's very consistent. There's lots of sun, lots of nutrients, lots of water. Things grow like crazy.
Okay.
But what ends up happening is organisms end up trying to avoid competing with each other. Because if you compete with another species, one of you is going to lose extinction. What ends up happening is that species end up diverging into their own specific niches.
Okay. Yeah.
So in that process, they evolve into a different species over time. So there's a higher rate of speciation in high productivity, low variation type environments. It's very consistent and there's always food. Then there's the model of there's medium level of productivity, but some disturbance events. The classic example of that are like tide pools in the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Or you may have heard of the keystone predation theory of sea stars eating mussels. If you go to, this was a study that was done, very famous study in the Pacific Northwest, one of these classic ecological treatises on the way things work.
Okay.
But this guy went up and he looked at the tide pools, figured out how many species there were on average in a square meter. I don't remember if that was actually his method, but
something along those lines.
Yeah, he figured out what the species diversity was out there with in a mussel sea star bed, so kind of the middle layers of the intertidal zone. Then the guy goes in, he removes the sea stars from an area of that, or I think what he actually did was he put a cage that the sea stars couldn't get in. And then he came back, went into the cage and checked the biodiversity within the cage and found that it had gone down. Not just because the sea stars were gone. The reason that in that case was because the mussels took over. They overgrew everything, so you ended up with a monoculture of mussels. When the sea stars were present, they would prey on the mussels, the sea stars, Physastrocraceus up there, they eat them.
Yeah.
And every mussel that would get pulled off and eaten would make room for a new species, a new organism, an individual to land on the rocks and start to grow. So as long as you had a keystone predator, in this case sea stars, out there doing their thing, they ended up helping maintain a higher biodiversity.
So let me run this by you. This begs the question. So one thing that I've noticed is if you go down to the marine preserve in Laguna Beach, you not only find like larger fish, but you also find like a greater diversity of sponges. You see more nudibranchs in a smaller area, whereas places like up around Palos Verdes that are not protected, it feels like there's just less stuff. Is that could the predation by fishermen and predation by spear fishermen taking out these kind of predatory or the larger fish that are going to be attacking smaller fish and blah 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 in the ecosystem, is that a thing? Also, didn't a study reveal something like that in Hawaii when they culled all the sharks in the 60s after a couple shark attacks?
Oh gosh, I'm not familiar with that. But
yeah, no, that's
you
the
said
big
is
thing.
possible.
Okay, it's possible.
Oh yeah,
it seems in line.
Yeah, it'd be a perfect hypothesis that you could test. That'd be a great study.